I wonder how I would write that down on paper. This is Music Student 101. You may find it useful to follow along on our website, musicstudent101.com. And now, your hosts, Jeremy Burns and Matthew Scott Phillips.
Hey, Matt.
Hey, Jeremy.
Can we talk about one more time how we're both bass players? Because we don't say that enough, I don't think.
Have we mentioned that? Have we mentioned that we're both bass players?
Well, in this case, I'm going to tell you a little story about myself and how me being a bass player has not helped out in this regard.
Okay.
Melodic dictation for me was very challenging. Because when I first got into college, I was mainly a bass player and knew very little about melody and fooled very little with melody. I was an acquaintance of melody, but didn't have an intimate knowledge of melody.
You knew it was there.
I knew it was there. I knew it did something while I'm doing something over here. But I mean, I can usually understand something better if I've had it under my fingers, if I've played it, or if I sang it, you know?
Yeah.
So likewise, I was never a vocalist until I got into college.
Right.
So I would never really did a lot of vocal. When I did get into the vocal, into the choir, I was a tenor. So I did handle a lot of melodies.
Yeah.
But by then, I'd already had a few melodic dictation tests that I didn't do so hot on. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. It's a little bit of an ear training episode.
Okay. Yeah, I love those.
But it's also a little bit of how to get us through it. And this does kind of address the college students a little bit more.
A little bit, but even if you're not a college student, I feel like knowing some basics about ear training and having a basic ear training skill set is one of the most important things for a music lover of any kind. Because you can get so much enjoyment out of knowing what's going on when you listen to a piece of music. Learning how to actively listen, and that's part of what we're learning when we're learning aural skills / ear training in college. We're learning how to actively listen, to listen with the intent to understand what's going on when we listen to a piece of music. Very important skill for a person with a music degree to have, but also a very rewarding and enriching skill, I feel like, for any music lover to have.
Even the non-musicians?
Even the non-musicians. You can learn the basic tenets of this, and it can really help you understand. It can really move you from that place where if you're listening to something, I'll give a really good nerdy classical example. If you're listening to something like a Schubert sonata, this can really move you from the place where just, okay, they're playing a lot of piano and, this person playing is really good and they're playing a lot of notes, but it's 5 minutes into 15-minute sonata, I'm bored. It can move you from that to going, wow, this is so great. The composition of this is so great. How they chose to perform this is so great. Getting from that first point to that second point is largely a function of ear training, in my humble opinion.
How do we describe melodic dictation?
Melodic dictation, the simple definition, is the act of listening to a melody and then based on nothing but your hearing of that melody, and there's usually more than one, writing out in music notation what that melody was.
Can we kind of give the people an idea of what it's like to experience a melodic dictation exam?
Well, have you ever had to walk a plank or stand in front of a firing squad? Because that's kind of what it feels like.
Not until my first melodic dictation exam.
It can be extraordinarily stressful, especially if you don't trust your skill set in this regard. And there are a lot of ways to approach doing this. There are a lot of ways to approach teaching aural skills. There are a lot of ways to approach learning aural skills. For my money, I think it is very important to understand the very basic fundamentals first and to never really let go of them, and have some basic ideas about what you're doing in your head that can inform your decision making. Because what this is sort of like minute by minute decision making, right? And so
second by second, even, right?
Yeah, second by second decision making. was that note a C sharp or was it a B or so. And this is a good time to say I do not have perfect pitch. Jeremy does not have perfect pitch. Not that he's ever told me.
No.
Yeah.
Relative pitch.
Most people who do this and succeed at it do not have perfect pitch. So we're not talking about perfect pitch. What we're talking about is relative pitch, the ability to hear what a note is relative to the other notes around it.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're making second by second decisions on what those notes are. So what you need is a good sort of mental process. This is what got me through aural skills, was a mental process. A lot of students may be tempted to just go, shoot, I don't know, and write down a sort of approximation of what they think they heard.
Mm-hmm.
And, when it's fairly easy, you're going to do that fairly well. The harder it gets, the less accurate that approximation is going to be until you get to aural skills 4, and in your sophomore year, and you are struggling.
Right.
To the people who are not music students, you may be sitting here thinking, why do you do this to these people?
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a music student, you may be sitting here thinking, why are you doing this to me? This is the most stressful thing, and nobody has earned a music degree ever without passing aural skills.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things.
And looking back, I remember it being so challenging and so frustrating, but somehow I guess I pulled it off,
Yeah.
And again, I was a garage punk coming into the college environment, I wasn't like...
Yeah.
Didn't have any knowledge of music.
Oh yeah, I didn't play high school band or anything. I was like you. I played in rock bands as an adolescent. Mm-hmm. I guess that's what we called ourselves. Yeah. But that's another podcast.
Yeah.
I came into this having never attempted this skill at all.
Yeah.
I think that's not an uncommon situation. Even with people who are more experienced with reading music than we are. Don't always necessarily come into college having a whole lot of prior experience to this skill.
It doesn't quite translate the same. However, before we get too deep into melodic dictation, we should probably talk a bit about sight singing.
Sure,
because the two complement each other. And we're going to get into sight singing later on its own podcast.
Yeah, we are. But they are two sides of the same coin. They're really the same skill.
Yeah.
Right? Sight singing is the ability to see a piece of music and sing the notes accurately, sing what's on the page, sing it, hum it, whatever. We use vocal exercises, but what we're really training music students to do in this situation is to look at a piece of music and know what that music should sound like, just by looking at the score, without necessarily having to hear it, themselves, which is, as you can probably see, sort of the opposite of dictation, which is hearing music and understanding what that music should look like on a score, without ever having to see an actual score. So, two sides of the same idea, and both of these are attempting to train music students to have this very, very important skill of basically being able to understand what's going on in music. Whether you're hearing music at a concert or on a recording or something, or whether you're looking at the score, to basically have that, I'm a person with a music degree level of understanding, without saying, oh, I have to play it, or, oh, I have to hear it, or, whatever. And that's the skill that's extremely beneficial, not just to music students, necessary to music students, but also extremely beneficial to people who are not college musicians or people who are not musicians at all, because the more of this skill you have, the more enriched music can be. The more you understand about what's going on, the more you get out of it,
And I think most people love music.
I think almost everybody, to the extent that people who don't have any emotional reaction to any kind of music get talked about in psychology books is weird.
Help these people out.
Yeah.
But no, it's true. Everyone I think has, there's enough varied types and genres of music out there to please just about everybody.
And if you don't like music, I'm sorry for calling you weird.
You're probably not listening to this if
You're
you
probably
if
not
you don't
listening
like
to this
music.
podcast. But,
Unless you're just
but just
really
in case you
trying to-
are, I'm sorry for calling you weird. I didn't mean it.
Yeah. So, let's get right into it, man.
Okay. What should we do? Should I
be the student?
Yeah, you can be the student. And I will just make up a very simple melody here. All right? So the first thing I'm going to do, because we do take some pity on you, we'll give you a key. So I'm going to give you a key.
So I'm sitting here with my little paper and my notation.
Yeah, yep.
So-
I am going to say that this is in the key of A major. So this is A major.
So you're going to kind of familiarize me with that.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, on my paper, I'm going to write down 3 sharps because I know we're in the key of A, and I will now attempt to notate what Matt will soon dictate.
Yeah. So A major.
There's home base right there.
Yeah. A major. Good old A major. I'm going to tell you that the first note is in fact C sharp.
So I'm writing that down right now.
Yeah.
My starting point.
And I'm going to, in fact, tell you that this is in 4/4 time. So we have A major. We have the first note, C sharp, and I'm even going to tell you that that first note is a quarter note. So I'm giving you a lot of head start here, right?
Very generous.
C sharp, quarter note, 4/4 time, 2 measures of music.
Key of A major. I know I'm starting off on the 3rd because I know that C sharp is the 3rd of A major.
Yes, you do. So we've got some anchoring going on
Some
already.
ammo.
Right? Yeah. So 2 measures of music. Yeah. And I'm even going to count it off for you. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to ask you to notate what that was. Now here comes the terror.
Is it my turn to kind of give you what I felt when you just did that?
Sure. What did you think?
What was going on in my head? Well, I felt like I heard an ascending melody, and it started from that C sharp.
So did this ascending melody move in step or by leap?
It felt pretty steppy.
Felt pretty steppy. And so, and if you know your solfege, you know, mi, fa, sol, fa, right?
If you know your solfege, which is not, I wasn't.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
But we're gonna talk about that later on because I was
Yeah.
actually looking up some tips, and that was actually one of them. So
Yeah.
we'll talk about solfege.
If you know your solfege or you know your numbers, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, you know, or whatever method you use, you know that was mi, fa, sol, fa, mi, and that was 3, 4, 5, 4, 3 being scale degree 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, right? The big thing that I like about that answer though is that is that what we're recognizing is ascending scale or melody, right?
Yeah.
We're moving up a scale.
Arching,
Arching, yeah.
as we learned in the previous episode.
Mm-hmm. So that's a good general sort of I thought I heard an arching melody. And then after that, what? What do you think?
I did get a sense that something was left unfinished, but then again, this is me having graduated and gone through ear training. I'm not sure how easy it would be for someone for the first time hearing this.
Yeah.
But I know that the rhythms were pretty simple.
The rhythms are pretty simple.
They all sounded even. So if we're in 4/4, maybe those were all quarter notes.
Maybe.
Or 8 notes,
Mm-hmm.
depending on what speed we're talking about. Yeah, that's what I got right now.
Yeah. So that's what you got. That's a great start. And it is a start. Like I said, a lot of people feel terrible at aural skills because that's about what they get to in their minds, right?
Okay.
Is that, well, I heard an ascending melody. I felt like it came back home. By home, we're meaning maybe back to the tonic. That
To the tonic chord.
Yeah, to the right, to the yeah, and I get that. I've got the rhythms are fairly simple. All right, But this is where the terror comes in because they start to know that's not enough, right? So
And you only get so many run-throughs of this, right?
You only get so many run-throughs depending on your music teacher. I had music professors that would say, well, if something's really hard, you might get 6 or 7 listens, but if I feel like it's really easy, you might only get 3 or 4. I tend to have 5 listens.
Right across the board.
Everything is 5 listens.
Okay.
I try to keep them all within the same difficulty level too, but but everything is 5 listens. I don't care if you only need 2 or if you could really use 7. You got 5.
That's not a bad deal.
Yeah. Other people only give you 3.
Right.
So depending on your teacher, you'll get multiple listens, but they're almost certainly going to be limited, the number you get. So let's talk about how to get those very good first impressions and translate that into some real accuracy. Right? Let's talk about those rhythms.
Yes.
We heard quarter notes. We heard eighth notes. What I like to do is we should always be keeping that beat clicking away in our head. Don't ever forget to have the beat click away in your head. People have a tendency not to really pay attention when the instructor gives them the key or gives them the time or counts off the first couple of measures. That's really your chance to get set, right?
Yeah.
For example, with the rhythm, when the professor counts off, that's a great time. Count off with him. Sort of tap your foot or nod your head a little bit. Have that always ticking in your brain. So I can go 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
And actually, when you were doing that the first time, I even found myself conducting while you were counting.
Absolutely.
So I could find where I was. So by the time you stopped counting, I took my
place,
metronome
right?
took over. Yeah.
And then with that clicking in your head, it becomes real easy to hear quarter note, quarter note, quarter note, quarter note, eighth notes, half note, right? And a lot of students like to just write the rhythms out first. Above their staff or something, they'll just jot out the rhythms. Cool. They'll get that before they worry about any kind of notes.
Okay.
So and so they don't having to sort of think about both at the same time.
That's ringing a bell.
Yeah. If once you get more adept, you'll find yourself thinking about both at the same time because our brains don't really separate music that way. You'll find yourself thinking about both at the same time. And I think initially you probably did find yourself thinking about both at the same time. If they both made it into your first general impression, both what the notes were doing and what the rhythm was doing.
Before I knew how to properly do it.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I... naturally, that's what you do.
Yeah, properly is a big word. This is just what allowed me to survive oral skills and what allows a lot of my students to survive oral skills, things like that.
Well, you got pretty far with it, Matt. So I'll take your word for it.
They eventually let me start teaching it. So yeah, So have that always clicking through your head, and then once you have the rhythms down, that's half the battle right there. Now you just have to worry about what the notes were, right? And we already know the first one of those. That was C sharp, right?
Yeah.
In solfege, that is me. In number speak, and some people use solfege, some just use the scale degree numbers, right? But I was raised on solfege, so I tended to fall back on that.
I wish I'd gotten to know solfege better. I really do.
There are advantages and drawbacks to both. Solfege helps you sing.
That's okay, we're gonna get into that because that seems to be what the main for the vowel sounds and everything.
Yeah. Solfege helps you sing. The numbers help you understand theory.
Which is why I think I stuck more with that because I just wanted to analyze.
Right. Yeah. So that is definitely a good thing to get into. But eventually you'll probably, if you go into grad school or something, you'll find yourself having to be bilingual just because people use either or.
Yeah.
So we know it was C sharp, and we know that those quarter notes we said was ascending stepwise. So mi, fa, sol, fa. Right? We got that far.
Yeah.
So we ascended up to sol. Normally these things, people try to make them make some amount of musical harmonic sense. It's not just random notes. So, you can think about chords. And that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Thinking, if you can think harmonically, that will help you when you get into harmonic dictation, which is doing this with chords, right?
Which is inevitable as well.
But they will mostly make musical sense, and this makes pretty good musical sense. Yeah. And now, what happened?
Well, it stopped.
That's just because I stopped playing. All right, let me play the whole thing again. Then.
Well, maybe I didn't understand the entire question.
Let's have our second listen.
Okay.
All right. 1, 2, 3, 4.
So, if I'm building a harmony in my head over the melody you just played, I did feel like that very last note kind of insinuated some kind of an unresolved cadence.
Unresolvedness. Yeah, good. The secret to doing that is to learn how to always keep do, 1, the tonic note, in your head. When your professor plays, when I said, okay, here's A major, and I did this little... This is a good time for you to sing do.
Do, right?
Yeah. Have that be silently singing do in your head the whole time.
Do.
So did we land on do?
No, something clashed right there for sure.
Yeah.
As I was singing my inner do.
Yeah, so that unresolvedness you hear is probably not just a figment of your imagination, right? Sounded like But before we get to that, we have eighth notes, right? So starting from the first part, and that was measure 1. Measure 2 begins those eighth notes. Where did we go from here?
The very last note you're talking about?
Yeah, so we went back down to 3, right? And then we had this sort of neighbor note motion. Right? So we're descending scale-wise here, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is where interval recognition is very, very important.
Right. Because it wasn't just another walk up and down the scale. Something happened at the end.
Right.
A leap of some kind happened.
Yeah, this little... And, we're doing that little half-step neighbor motion. And again, this makes a kind of musical sense, right? Mi, fa, mi. It's a neighbor tone.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can continue down the scale. Except that was weird, right?
That was weird.
So what happened?
Okay, let's see here. Dun, 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 dun. It's almost like where you expected it just to land on the 1, it went elsewhere. It was like a deceptive cadence or like a half cadence or something like that.
Very nice. So where did it go? Sing do and sing that note you landed on, and figure out if you can figure out the relationship between those.
Do. I'm not sure if I still have my do. That's easier said than done, really.
It takes practice. That would have been do.
Why? Why am I having problems with this? What I'm trying to illustrate to them is what it would have sounded like if it had gone down to do.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it would have been like da 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 da. Do. There's my do.
Yeah.
Do. That's what it would have been like, but it didn't go to that. It went da 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 da.
How far away from do are we when we go?
It doesn't feel too far away.
Does not.
Maybe a step or maybe less.
Yeah, or maybe even a half step away.
Because it did feel like it wanted to go back to that.
It does feel like you wanted. Imagine this cadence resolving.
Yes.
All right. So,
in fact, the first time you play that, I said he's putting me on because it didn't even sound like it was a part of the scale for a second to me.
Right.
It did sound foreign. It sounded like you went somewhere else. But that's what that was. That was the 5/7.
Yeah. We're outlining a 5/7 chord with that.
Yeah.
That was. We're also landing on scale degree 7. Just a half step below do, right? What we would call T in solfège.
So had I been paying attention to my internal do the whole time, I would have sensed that distance between the T, the note, the leading tone note that he landed on, and the note I was to be holding.
Exactly. And it is for that reason that internal do's are so important. Because, at some point you get to the things where we were talking about modulating melodies and things like that. Keeping that do in the back of your head. Very, very important. A very important way to center yourself coming back, and sort of be able to tell where notes are in relation to do, is how you know, well, that's T, if that's do.
Okay.
This is the fundamentals of relative pitch.
Yes.
So
we're kind of using where we think the melody is going to go as kind of a roadmap to where we are.
Sort of,
I guess.
We're sort of using general impressions, and at this point, we have called on a lot of sort of analytical skills to help us. We're thinking about whether that melody ascended or descended. We're thinking about where that melody landed in relation to do. We're even really thinking about where the other notes are in relation to do, because this is don't overrush this, understanding what this neighbor note is, where it's going down to C sharp and then back up to D and down to C sharp and then down to B. That kind of thing can be confusing, but if you can tell that first C sharp was in fact C sharp, was me, then you have sort of a grounding to think, all right, it was me, it went up from me to fa, went back down, and then went below that, and you've only got one note left at that point, the half note that's right there. So this is the secret. The secret is to be able to think about these things, and not just kind of rely on your hand to write the note that you heard, just by way of your awesomeness, because that won't get you very far.
Well, some of us are born awesome. Some of us have to work pretty hard for it. I had to work pretty hard for awesome.
Yeah, and there are some people that are just really seem to be naturally good at aural skills.
Yeah.
That just don't seem to have a problem with it. That is because they've already built up this skill set. Whether it was because they were a vocalist or whether they or a string player who needs these skill sets a lot to play their instrument or whatever. Those people that seem naturally good at it really just already have this skill set built up already.
Well, that's a little reassuring.
Yeah. But everybody has to build it. You're not born knowing how to do this.
Right.
You're not born knowing what a major scale is. So you have, everybody at one point or another has to put in the work to get good at this.
Good.
So now at this point, we've got this melody almost figured out, right? So in quarter notes, C sharp, D, E, D, and then in eighth notes, C sharp, D, C sharp, B, and then one half note that is G sharp.
Right.
Scale degree 7.
Got
which
it.
We would really hope in the following measure, if there were one, would resolve upward at some point.
We can all sleep that night.
Yeah, right.
Okay, well, that makes sense. So at the very least, we have our rhythms down.
Yeah. Well, we have the rhythms and the notes at this point.
Yes. Well, what else is there?
Nothing. Not in melodic dictation. Once you have the rhythms and have the notes, you're pretty done.
Hey, that was pretty easy, actually.
Yeah, pretty easy, right?
Easier than it should have been. What was wrong with that? No,
Want to try
man.
another one?
Let's try another one. Sure, yeah.
All right. So this time, let's be in D.
Take us there.
And Jeremy will tell you I'm just making this crap up. So.
Yeah, no, you have exercises that you use, but we're doing this on the fly.
Yeah, we're doing this on the fly. But this is just, to illustrate examples. So let's be in D major this time. So D major.
There's my dough.
There's your dough.
Hot
Nice
diggity
job.
dog.
I'm going to say this time that the soprano note is A.
Okay.
So already we're on scale degree 5, right?
Do, re, mi, fa. So,
Right. Scale degree, yeah, as you would know it, 5.
5. Yeah,
Right.
let's just.
Yeah.
I'm going to speak my language. I'm going to try and speak your language sometime.
Can you sing down the major scale from that 5 to that 1? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I sure can.
That'll be helpful.
See, we've done that with the third before,
Yeah.
but it also works pretty good with the 5, you're saying.
It absolutely works with the 5.
Cool.
Yeah. So yeah. So 5, and then I'm going to give you 2 measures again. Right?
Yes, sir.
And then I'm going to make this scale degree 5 a quarter note again.
Okay.
All right.
Now, this time, before we get into it, let's kind of talk about what we should be prioritizing on each of the listens before we get into the listens.
Good plan. The first listen, general impressions / rhythms.
Okay.
Right. All right. So first listen. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah. So what do you think? General impressions, rhythms?
It rhythmically it bared resemblance to the first one, I believe. I think
Mhm.
we had quarter note, quarter note, quarter note, quarter note, 8, 8, 8, 8, quarter note,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, so pretty similar to the first one.
So
Sorry, like
yep.
I said, making it up on the fly.
That's right. We're starting simple. So I've notated the rhythms now.
Mhm.
So I have an idea of where they are.
All right.
Now, I also, in terms of the scope of the entire melody, I did notice it had a greater resolution at the end.
It did.
It felt more complete.
Can you still sing Do?
Oh, right now?
Yeah.
Crap.
Yeah.
I wasn't holding on to it that whole time, but I had it for a second there.
So, so it sounds like we ended on Do that time.
Yeah.
Right. What about the beginning of that melody?
Well, you told us where it was.
Told you where? Yeah, told you scale degree 5.
So we know it's definitely the 5.
Mm-hmm.
And, okay, and what's... Na, 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 na. I guess it's also a help to be able to sing the melody to yourself in your head once you hear it the first time.
In your head.
In your head.
You will definitely annoy your fellow ear training students by humming to yourself audibly.
Yeah,
They will want to smack you.
we've gotten into that many times too, haven't we?
Yeah.
But anyways, the original question was, what did the melody kind of do? And I got a sense that it we talked about how it started on the 5th, da, and then da 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 da. It kind of went down a good bit, and then up a little bit, and then down further, and then up a little bit, as if kind of gradually and liltingly descending like a staircase.
Right. So sort of a staggered descent kind of thing.
An undulating melody.
Maybe, yeah,
One
a bit
might
of an
say.
undulating melody. Overall, it's moving down,
Overall, it's moving down.
but kind of in stagger. So it's down and then up a little, and then down and then up a little, right?
Yeah, so there's a contour that's almost like
Yeah.
a staircase.
Yeah, so we got some rhythms. We got some general impressions. Now, actual notes. Like we know, that first note is A.
Okay.
And then the second note, what do you think? Can you sing down to 1 from that note?
Na, na, na.
Yeah,
Yes,
so
I
you
can.
sang down 3 notes when you did that.
And I
right?
landed on 1, so that must have been on the 3rd.
Yeah, so you're on the 3rd.
All right.
Very nice. So the 3rd in D is F sharp, right?
Yes.
A, F sharp, and then we talked about that sort of staggering descent, right? So it goes up a little, What do you think? Did it go all the way back to A?
No.
No, so we only really have one option, right?
And as long as we're diatonic and as long as we're staying in the key,
Yep.
yes, that option would be the G note or the fourth.
Yeah. So yeah, so we're on 4 now, or fa if you're in solfege. Yeah, and you can hear that it's a half step above where we are, right? It's a half step above that scale degree 3. 5, 3, and then just a half step up, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you know your intervals well, this thing can really help.
Or your tendency tones, for that matter.
Or your tendency tones, for that matter, yeah.
There's only 2 of them. Main ones.
And then where did we go?
Back even lower. Yeah, a little bit
Back
lower.
even lower. Can you sing down to 1 from this note?
Actually, it sounds like we're there, so maybe just one step. I would say that's Ray.
That sounds like Ray, otherwise known as scale degree 2. So, mi, fa, re. Right? T would be, remember T from last time, right?
Yeah.
We're not that far down. So, 5, 3, 4, 2, yeah. And then begins our 8th notes. Starting on what note do you think?
I think that starts on 1. On
It
do.
does indeed start on 1. And then, sang it very well. Can you tell me those notes?
1, 2, 1, 7, 1.
Yeah. And that was our second measure. So A, F sharp, G, E, 1, 2, 1, 7, 1.
Cool.
Nice, huh?
Yeah.
That first measure was actually totally Happy Kitty, Sleepy Kitty from Big Bang Theory. If I had just gone,
Yes.
I don't want to do the whole thing over again and do that, but but yeah.
We're having fun with this, but at the same time, it is kind of useful to be able to acquaint melodies you hear with other things that you kind of find them that you're familiar with.
Yeah, because those outlining those chords, that kind of thing happens all the time in all kinds of music.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if Happy Kitty helps you understand, so mi fa re, then it absolutely is useful.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So, important things that will help you. Keep do in your head. A lot of notes you will find aren't hard to figure out. Some of those 8th note neighbor tones, there aren't a whole lot of different options. This is fairly intuitive. When you find yourself stuck, when you find yourself going, I'm not sure where that note is, this is where your mental process is going to come in and help. It's like, well, sing do and sing do and where am I in relation to where I know do is, and then you can figure out what that note is,
Because you take that note in question and you try to make your way back to do from that note.
Right. Yeah.
Up or down.
Yeah. Try singing down to do.
Yeah.
If you try to sing down to do and you don't feel like you can move, guess where you are?
Uh-huh.
You're
Yeah,
on
right.
do.
Right.
Or you're on 1. I keep trying to be bilingual.
I appreciate that, as I'm sure many do.
Yeah. You're on do or you're on 1. If it takes you 5 notes to get to 1, you're on 5. If it takes you 4 notes to get to 1, you're on 4. If it feels like you'd rather sing up to 1, then maybe you're on 7 or maybe 6.
Yeah.
And of course, all of this requires doing a lot of practice, as you will be in your first days of aural skills, singing up and down scales until those are just drilled into your head, and singing arpeggiated chords until those are drilled into your head, That is very, very important to understanding aural skills. But once you've got those drilled into your head, you will find that you can take a note and sort of isolate it and sing down to the tonic Always be able to do that for those times when you get stuck. It helps some people to think about rhythms first. Sketch out what you think the rhythms are before you even begin really worrying about the notes very much. You'll find that you still have some impressions of what the notes were. You won't have completely given up a listen to rhythms and have no idea. You'll have an impression of what the notes were,
right,
but you were concentrating mainly on those rhythms. Get those rhythms down in the first listen, in the first couple of listens, and then you don't have to worry about it. Then it's just plotting in notes. The beginning and the end are always the easiest. Don't be afraid to dictate the first measure and then dictate the last measure and then worry about the middle on another listen.
That's interesting.
And you can work from the outsides in. There are some students definitely, they'll dictate the first measure and the last measure, and then the second measure and the penultimate measure, the second to last measure, and just work their way into the middle that way, because it was in the middle where they got confused and dropped out, and that was scary, right?
You know what it sounds like you're doing when you do that?
What?
Engaging your theory brain.
Engaging your theory brain. Absolutely.
Because we talked about that. Because you can
Speaking of which, engage your theory brain.
Engage your theory brains.
These melodies often will outline chords, and those chords will make harmonic sense.
Yes.
Usually
based on the material you've studied up until this point.
Right, up until this point, yeah. This aural skills usually runs congruent, but a couple of weeks behind theory. That's where we like to keep it.
Okay.
So the concepts you've learned in theory that are a couple of 3 weeks old, that's when they're showing up in aural skills. Keep your theory brain engaged. These things will outline chords that make sense. Tendency tones will resolve in ways that make theory sense. Melodies will be structured in ways that make theory sense. So keep that in mind. And work on these mental processes, because that can make the difference between aural skills being absolutely completely terrifying and aural skills being, only mildly stressful. Which is about as good as it's going to get.
Yeah, right.
I'm sorry to tell you that this is just a stressful thing we make you do.
Yes. It's work.
It's work, but you will be so glad we made you do it.
Yeah.
And think about what it means for your ability to listen to music if you can listen to something that goes and know what that melody is, right? Mi, fa, mi, fa. Re, right? If this is do, so 2. If this is 1, and so 3, 4, 3, 4. 3, 4, 3, 2, and of course that 2 is part of a 5 chord, right?
Yeah.
Which makes that a half cadence. Think about what that means if you can listen to something and be able to do that. Think about what it means for you to listen to Sleepy Kitty, And imagine what that would be like if you were playing it on the piano. Think what that does for your musical connection, for the enrichment of your music, of your ability to understand music. It cannot be overstated.
Yeah. Dare we belabor the listening audience with one more of these examples?
Absolutely. Let's do one last one.
One last one.
What do you think? You want to do one on the fly
Now
here?
that we have a few of these in a kind of a rule or tips in mind, I'm going to try and see if I can use some of these. On the first listen, I'm going to focus on rhythms.
Okay.
So hit me.
All right. So let's be in G major.
Okay. Is this the one?
That is the one. And I will even say the first note will be 1 this time.
Okay.
So we're starting on 1.
Very generous.
And it'll be an 8th note.
Cool.
Right. So let's see. 2 measures again. And believe me, in aural skills class, 2 measures become 4 measures become 8 measures.
Oh crap.
Yeah.
Okay.
But for the time being, 2 measures, And here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Okay, I'm hearing mainly eighth notes with a little bit of a quarter note in the middle there somewhere.
Yeah.
Da 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 da.
Quarter note, yeah.
Da 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 da.
You may have missed one beat of eighth
Towards
note.
the end.
So
yeah.
I feel like it was 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 quarter note. Second measure, same thing. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4.
4. Okay,
quarter
okay.
note.
Cool.
So now
So-
that's out of the way.
Two things, basically a repetition of itself.
Yeah.
Rhythmically. It
Yeah,
does the same
rhythmic
thing twice.
repetition. So from that quarter note, where did we go? Second listen.
Just thinking about the contour, I'm kind of seeing an arching thing happen. It goes up and then back down, but then when it gets to the bottom, it jumps back up.
Yeah. And that jumps are always terrifying, right?
Yeah, very.
So we went up and down. 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. Right? That's fairly easy.
Uh-huh.
1. So to where did we jump?
It felt like either a fifth or an octave, but I want to say a fifth.
You want to say a fifth, huh?
But maybe it was an octave.
Well, which was it, Jeremy? An octave or a fifth?
Da, 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 dee, dee. Na, 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 na. Na, 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 na. Ah, that was a fifth.
That was very much a fifth. And again, kind of makes harmonic sense, right?
Yep.
Half cadence, yeah. Right.
Oh, because in my head, just so you guys know, in my head, I was trying to figure out if it was the fifth or an octave.
Fifth or an octave.
But if that note would not have been a part of
right,
the
that
five
note,
chord.
an octave would not have been a part of a half cadence. Would not have been part of a 5 chord.
It definitely felt like a half cadence.
Yeah. And mistaking fifths for octaves and octaves for fifths is very, very common. Those two sound a lot alike, and so that's an oft-made mistake.
Yeah.
Sing down to do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's how I got out of
sing
it.
that note and sing back down that major scale in your head, and it will become apparent.
Mm-hmm.
So first measure, we've got it: G, A, B, A, G. Couple of D's.
Mm-hmm.
And now second measure.
All right. Oh, that sounded like a walk straight down the scale, but
Really
with a little
did.
embellishment in there at the beginning of it.
Really did. Talk to me about that embellishment.
It sounded pretty straightforward, like 5, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Exactly right. 5, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
It felt and sounded diatonic.
Yeah, and in solfege lingo, so la sol fa mi re do. In that's the 2, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, in solfege lingo, so la sol fa mi re do. The sol la sol is one of those little idioms that get stuck in your head. You will kind of, to me, there are a few things, the sound of which just got memorized. You know, just the sound of those things, because I heard them so much. Right?
Okay.
So sol la sol. You know, do la sol. You know, it's got that kind of American folk twinge to it.
Yeah.
You know, things like that. Changing tones around do. You know, things like that, and even and then you know, like we were talking about, sol mi fa re. You know, especially like fa re do. You know, the little things like that you hear so much that you just sort of memorize their sounds, and I would encourage you to try to do that.
Yeah.
Just get stuck in your head what sol la sol sounds like.
We're kind of taking little melodic nuggets and we're kind
Yeah,
of say
yeah.
them in our head.
Yeah, little melodic nuggets. Those will help a lot. So when you hear sol la sol in a melody, you can think to yourself, "Was that sol la sol?" and then you can, sing down to do and test yourself, confirm for, but, you'll be on the right track because you know the sound of that, in minor keys, and we didn't do any minor keys, but do, lay, sol. Yeah. Lay, sol in relation to do, just...
It's
just
a very
something,
particular sound.
Yeah, and I think you just heard it so much, that's that's in the Halloween music, the movie from Halloween. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, yesterday was 5/4 day. This is a little bit off.
May the 4th.
May the 4th. And,
May the 4th be also known as Dave Brubeck Day.
Yes.
Yeah. I call it Dave Brubeck Day because when you're as big a Star Wars fan as I am, every day is Star Wars Day, so you just...
They should have called it Paul Desmond Day, though. He actually wrote it.
They should have called it
Brubeck gets all the damn credit for that song.
He does. It is not fair. I mean, I guess he was the one that convincingly played in 5/4.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what it is.
And that, I guess where I went from that was Halloween is actually in 5/4.
Yeah, wait. But we digress.
But we digress.
So,
we haven't digressed in a long time, though.
Yeah, no, we haven't. Now we're digressing again.
We're due for a good digression.
In theory, a digression's actually a bad thing. It's when you're going backwards down the circle of fifths. So like 1, 5, 2, 6, 3, and you're not supposed to do it.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, there you go. Digression is a bad thing. Not, and of course, I totally don't do that all the time, every time I write something and don't care. But it is technically a bad thing.
Mm-hmm. You're breaking rules that you can break.
If you can break them, are they really rules?
They're conventions.
Yeah.
Theories?
I mean, to me, a rule is something that you can't defy. Like gravity.
A law that can't be broken.
Yeah, like a law. The law of gravity.
Yeah.
You can't defy the law of gravity, it won't work. You walk off a cliff and you're going to fall,
Yeah.
That's a law, the centripetal force, that's that things like that. You can't defy that. That just happens. Digressions
happen all the time.
They're more like traffic lights in Italy, it's like a suggestion. You say, you really ought to think about stopping. There's some good reasons why you should stop here, but anyway. But we digress.
As we do.
So hopefully this is helpful. Send in your tips for how you survived aural skills.
Let me send in a few of my own.
Oh, excellent.
Let's have a quick little discussion on some. I actually did got online and found other people's ideas and tips.
That sounds great.
And maybe we should discuss a few of them and see what you think about them.
Absolutely.
And I'll go ahead and start off.
Probably going to like them.
Well, hopefully. And you might not like some of them, but we'll see. We'll start off with what we've been talking about earlier, solfège.
Right.
Let's see here. Like when I look back to your stories of you driving from Montgomery to Birmingham,
right,
and using your solfège, it made me kind of wish I had learned the solfège system. And then I wondered why. Why should I learn the solfège system?
Yeah.
Well, it turns out I think that if you're singing these notes to yourself, or if you're using vocals, solfège, my understanding, my feeling of it is you're kind of working all the different vowel sounds.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a lot of vowel sounds are represented when you count from 1 to 8.
Yeah.
But the benefit of solfège is they're all single syllable.
Mm-hmm. They're all single syllable.
I know a while ago we turned 7 into sev.
Yeah.
But it flows a little better with solfège, I think.
Yeah, because in solfège, every note of the chromatic scale has its own unique syllable.
Yes.
So you don't have to modify, when like you say, 7 will become sev in the number system. Sometimes if you're talking about flat 7, some people will want you to say sov.
Oh, crap.
Yeah, right. At this point, you're just really starting to make up your own kind of solfège, really, right? Where you're giving every note a different syllable.
Yeah.
So you don't have to do that in solfège. Everything already has its own unique syllable. So that's easy.
Okay, well, before we move on from solfege, then, because we haven't messed with a lot of minor keys, is there a solfege for minor?
There is. There's absolutely a solfege for minor.
So real quick, solfege for major, everyone knows it.
Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do.
What's the solfege for minor?
Well, do you want natural minor or harmonic minor?
I want to start off with natural.
Okay, so natural would be do, re, mi,
Okay.
fa, sol, la,
Lay.
te,
Okay.
do.
Okay, and what about natural? What about harmonic minor?
Well, harmonic minor would have the raise 7. So do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti.
Okay, because it's still that leading tone.
Because it's still the leading tone. Yeah.
So the scale step keeps the syllable regardless.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and there are differences in America. What is very popular is what we call movable do. So do becomes whatever the tonic is. So if you're in the key of A is do. If you're in the key of D is do.
Okay.
And then the syllables just sort of shift around with that as to what actual notes they refer to. In other countries, fixed do is very popular. So C is always do.
Okay.
D is always re. And so on and so forth. So if you wanted to sing the major scale in if you wanted to sing the D major scale in fixed do, you would sing and I'm not good at this. You would sing re, mi, fi, so, la, and so on like that.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. They get really good at it because they practice it, And like everything, that has advantages and drawbacks, just like our system does, and like learning numbers does. But yeah, so that's a big advantage. And it was discovered a long, long time ago, and I mean like the Middle Ages, that having those syllables associated with a note helped you sing that note correctly, helped you find where that pitch was and sing it in the right way.
So I can see the benefit of that. Now, of course, if I tried to calculate that right now, you'd certainly smell something burning if I was to try and even touch the iceberg tip of...
I got about halfway up one
do.
of the easier scales. I'm pretty proud of myself.
Yeah, right. Well, it's good to know that thing exists.
Yes.
Just for our own knowledge. Now, the disadvantage in my mind of the solfege system is that the number system is used so much more in theory concepts.
Yeah, so that's where
majority.
that's where the number system has a particular advantage, because if you're singing 5 4 3 2 1, that's also what you're calling those scale degrees in theory is 5 4 3 2 1. So and you're learning that 1 3 5 1 is a tonic chord, whereas 5 7 2 4 is a 5 7 chord. And so, if you're singing those numbers in aural skills and saying those numbers in theory, then those concepts get married in your brain, and it's much easier for you to get the idea that 5 7 chord is 5 7 2 4. Mm-hmm. Those aren't two different things to you. Whereas when you're learning the solfege syllables, you have to learn 5 7 2 4, but then you also have to learn sol, ti, re, fa.
Seems a bit cumbersome.
Yeah. Not something that can't be overcome, but that it's not as fluid as just everything being the same thing. And you get people who learn the number system tend to get really good at that sort of basic theory stuff that way.
So it could benefit us to know something about solfege and sometimes use that system especially when it comes to melodic dictation.
Totally, yeah.
Melodies.
Solfege helps you sing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and this is purely anecdotal, my personal observation. But solfege helps you sing. It helps you sight sing. It helps you sing the right notes in the right time. And the number system helps you with theory.
Yeah. Okay.
And then within solfege, fixed do helps you sing complicated things. You can sing atonal stuff, and if you learn movable do, when you try to sight sing atonal stuff, you're just screwed.
There's not enough syllables to...
Well, it's not even that there's not enough syllables. It's just those syllables don't even mean anything anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just all you didn't learn the right system for this, and people who learned fixed do to a greater extent did.
Mm-hmm.
So there are advantages and disadvantages there too. Of course, fixed do, when you're learning just the simple diatonic stuff in the beginning, as we saw, you're having to make huge mental calculations just to sing the right syllable sometimes. But But there you go. Everything has its own opinions and drawbacks. Anyway, next tip.
That's cool. Moving on from solfège, I think this is one of the key things, and this is not without even researching. This kind of just came into my head, of course, and we addressed it today. That would be get used to establishing a home base.
Yes.
You hear 3 or 4 notes, you can already get an idea of what neighborhood you're in when you hear a melody.
Neighbor. I like that word. What neighborhood are you in?
And you kind of establish the neighborhood before you gave the exam.
Yeah, absolutely.
You want to base it on the first and last note. It's always good to kind of know where the first and last note, what kind of...
Yeah, those are the easiest to dictate.
Yeah, okay. And you kind of use your skills of deduction from that point, or your theory brain a little bit.
Engage the theory brain. Never let loose the theory brain.
Here's another one. That this is just a practical thing that I've picked up that I've used. You listen to your favorite song or one of your favorite songs.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to the first chord and call it home base until your intuition tells you otherwise, of course. Not all songs begin on the tonic and end on the tonic.
Not all.
But by the time you get through the first, verse and chorus of a song, maybe you have an idea of where that home base is.
Yeah, absolutely. We do that, when we do interval recognition, and the tried and true method of teaching interval recognition is to match it to some song. And like they say, well, what is a major 6? Well, a major 6 is My Bonnie Lies Over the Ocean, right? It's actually a little messed up because you're actually you're not going 1 to 6 there. You're actually going scale degree 5-3.
Oh crap.
5-3 2 1 1 7 6 6 5. Remember, I have La Sol Dol as one of those little nuggets. La Sol.
Yeah.
But
Did you know the nugget?
Right there. So half cadence. Or whatever it did. So, the point is we use these, these songs that are, kind of a little lame and hokey. Some people think, they all came from like the 18th century or something.
Yeah.
And they're not that much fun. But, the music you listen to every day has the same intervals. And it has the same scales, it has the same chords. Listen to your favorite songs and try to pick these out. Try to dictate them. That story, and I know I'm a nerd, but that story about me, having no radio and listening to intervals, and then I would find myself in the shower humming the theme song to, Star Trek Deep Space Nine or something. And I would say, well, what is that in solfège? And I would kind of try to pick it out and see if I could figure it out, So much of getting that skill set is this kind of stuff that happens in your own brain. Don't expect yourself to necessarily to get it all based on what's going on in class. Practice a little bit. This is the one thing you can practice anywhere, everywhere, all the time.
Yeah.
You don't even need your instrument in your hands or in your voice or whatever to practice this.
And if your voice is so horrendous, have you considered whistling?
You can whistle. You can just sing it in your head.
I'm a whistler, man. People kind of, I think, find that annoying sometimes.
I cannot whistle.
I can. Really?
Yeah.
My wife can't whistle. Heather cannot whistle.
It's just, I guess it's something about the shape of my mouth. I don't know, but I cannot. I cannot whistle. So I used to hum a lot. But nowadays I just sing solfège. I think I just go around the house singing, so, mi, fa, re, do, re, mi, fa, so.
Happy kitty.
Yeah, happy kitty. And I will do my variations after I get bored with it a little. So, la, so, fa, mi, re, do, re, mi, fa, so.
Hey.
So, fa, mi, re, mi, re, do, ti, re, do. Or whatever. I don't know.
That's a very happy kitty.
Yeah.
Okay, now I have a few questions for you here.
Drives my girlfriend nuts.
Oh, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, back to the ear training. I wrote a few things last night, and I'm trying to think about what I was getting at. Let me just kind of read this to you and see if we can make it into an intelligible question. Okay, so when we're first starting to work on melodic dictation, is there a way to ease our way into it?
Is there a way to ease your way into it? Well,
how to begin?
Yeah, it's very important to begin with some fundamentals. And, your ear training teacher knows this. Before he starts making you dictate melodies, you will be learning to first, for one thing, singing the major scale, both ascending and descending. That's kind of day one stuff.
Yeah.
That is day one stuff. It's teaching them to do that, and every day after that, up into the day I gave the dictation final in the second class of sophomore ear training, Aural Skills 4. We sang the major scale up, ascending and descending that day.
Okay.
But yeah, if you want to ease your way into it, that fundamentals: major scale, ascending and descending; minor scales, ascending and descending. The major chord and the dominant chord. Arpeggiate them up and down.
That was my next question. Should we actually? I'll be also arpeggiating.
Yeah,
throughout the
learn,
scale.
and we're just basically learning how to sing this like you would learn how to sing a song, but. And then the 5/7. Right? And then. Yeah. And, do that over and over and over again until it is just ingrained in your brain. If you're taking an aural skills class in college, you will do that over and over again until it's ingrained in your brain. And then, when you have melodies that that is not hard to dictate because that is a tonic chord.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, anyway.
So forth and so on.
Yeah, and so forth and so on. Yeah.
Yeah.
There, got it.
Okay, well that covers the arpeggios.
Yeah.
And I guess this is more of a comment than a question.
Comment away.
And we have already said this before. Just get used to singing. Do it in the shower. Do it in the car. Do it in a box. Do it with the fox. We're not all Pavarotti. We don't require you to be Pavarotti. Don't require yourself to be Pavarotti.
I tell my aural skills students this almost every day. On the first day of class, almost every time, and continuously throughout. I can't sing. I am not a singer. I am not a vocalist.
You can hang though. You can hang. You're getting the notes right.
Yeah, but no one has ever wanted or will ever want to put me on the stage singing anything.
Right,
all right,
okay.
I'm not a good singer.
Fair enough.
But I can survive aural skills. This is not about the quality of your vocal performance. Keep in mind what it is that we're actually trying to get you to be able to do, the skill we're trying to implement here, which is the ability to hear music and understand what's going on.
That's what it's all about.
And that's what it's all about. Not about making you into a good singer. If you want to make yourself into a good singer, well, there are classes for that too. You go study vocal performance and take lessons with an actual singer, not me, right?
And you can also listen to the podcast we're going to have on singing.
Yeah, and you can also do that. Yes.
Whenever we have it.
Yes, but the point of aural skills is not to make you a good singer. The point of aural skills is to make you good at understanding what's happening in the music you listen to.
Yeah.
And to develop that skill of actively listening, paying attention to what you're listening to, not just have it be background noise.
And also because you can't carry your instrument everywhere you go.
Yeah.
So you want to have some kind of musical medium.
Yeah. You can practice aural skills anywhere.
Yeah, you can't fit that piano in your car. But you can whistle or you can sing.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I feel like I got a lot of what I need to go out and understand melody a little bit better.
Well, I hope so. Like I said, this is not, you're not going to listen to this and then go out and immediately understand every melody ever. This is laying forth the groundwork. Practice.
Now, where are we going to go from here? If this was a part one, what can we look forward to?
Well, we want to talk about sight singing, the other side of that coin.
Yes.
And then both with melodies and with chords, we want to go forth and start thinking about slightly more complex melodies and slightly more complex chords. Melodies that leap more, melodies that leap in ways that are not to the 5, which is like the easiest leap ever, but to all sorts of notes. We'll get to
compound melodies, right?
Compound melodies, yeah, and we can talk about what that is. We can talk about non-diatonic melodies, getting into melodies that use notes from outside of the scale.
Outside of the comfort zone.
Yeah. And obviously these also get longer. 2 measures is nothing. there'll be 8, 9 measures of melody for you to dictate.
Man, I can't even remember more than 2 measures, let alone dictate it. But we shall see, right? We shall see as time goes, as we get into these podcasts.
We shall see indeed. You know, as by the end of my aural skills class, they were dictating passages from Mozart pieces. So
I'm sure we did too. I just can't remember.
maybe not.
Maybe not. I don't
I'm a little adventurous.
Yeah. Oh, the ones you're teaching.
Yeah, the ones I'm teaching.
Okay. Cool, man.
Yeah. So hang in there.
Hang in there, practice, and Godspeed.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to rate us on iTunes or whatever your podcast resource may be. It helps us to spread the word. And as always, feel free to contact us at info@musicstudent101.com.